It's the morning after UMBC's HvZ Spring Invitational, and oh boy, my throat is sore, my back is aching, and my legs are still very, very dead. But they are for good reasons. Yesterday was an absolute blast. I have some notes from the Maryland HvZ Invitational that I will share now, but overall, very happy with the event. Congratulations to the moderators for holding their largest HvZ Spring Invitational to date. It was an amazing experience, and I mean, I've never seen something like this before. The registration, it was good. Having the days before be the briefings, and then the morning of the actual event be briefings too for people who are traveling in and out of town was a good idea. The briefings also they made sense. They were good spaces to also leave your gear if you wanted to. They were inside the buildings and people were around so they could watch them. I felt like if I left gear there, it was going to be safe and not stolen. But yeah, the briefings were well organized. They answered questions and, they gave you an idea of what was to come. Did I listen as well as I could have? Meh. I also wasn't super focused on the objective. If you're a human, tag zombies. If you're a zombie, tag humans. That part I knew. And the locals would pay attention to the rest. There was, in fact, some undesirable weather. Now, the campus can't control that. We were very lucky the days prior that we got none of that. But of course, Saturday threw in a little bit of a wrench. They said they'd play on in the rain, which they pretty much did, but thunderstorms were the one thing that would slow something down, and they did postpone just a little bit as a result of that, but it was communicated before that would happen, and they had canopies already ready in our areas outside. So we were able to huddle there. People were able to go inside to wait out some of that rain. Yeah, it worked. And I guess the campus itself gets a shout out because of being able to react to the weather well. The grass got wet and some parts got a little bit muddy, but the stairs and the main walking paths dried pretty quickly. So good job, campus. And just overall, the game was fun. They put a lot of work. They always put a lot of work into these stories, the props that they pull out, the things that they have you do as humans and zombies, because you want to be invested in the game and in the story, and you want to actually care about keeping your moderators alive. The moderators need to actually have some enthusiasm to keep the players engaged, because you're going around in different groups of humans. You're not just one big clump. They make sure to actually do that, just like there's not one big massive horde of zombies, there are a few. And that's something, of course, that the moderators and organizers are always keeping track of. And of course, the game wouldn't be possible without the fantastic players. I loved meeting people in the game that I'd never met before, and that some people got super into it, with costumes, and other people were just, I got mags on mags, I'm going to survive. And that's totally fine. I love that people can kind of play HvZ however they see fit, as long as they're not, messing with other people trying to tell them what they need to do. You can rile people up, you can inspire them to play, but at the end of the day, there are some, fairy princesses running in amongst, super decked out heavy artillery people, right? That's just the beauty of HvZ. It's so silly. And, I tried to embrace that as well with the limited amount of tags I got. And there's someone always blasting music from a speaker to get hyped, or they're playing music in the background on a guitar or a banjo. And I think that's so great. It just shows how silly and fun and how lighthearted the event can be still, while also having its moments of just pure chaos and intensity. So I tried to bring, some of that zombie energy with the return of the cursed sax man who was wearing the extended hand fingers. Yeah, I got a lot of comments on that, which was the goal. The goal was, as soon as you saw him, hey, what the frick is that? What is that on your hands? I don't like that at all. So, good, mission accomplished. The way I got out was pretty stupid. I'll share that now in case I didn't already. We saw a drone flying over, and as soon as it did, there was a group of zombies approaching. Everyone started yelling at it to get out of the air because they weren't allowed to fly it on campus. And so I was talking to Neil. I was like, hey, is that correct? Should they actually get that out of the air? Because I thought Neil would know more. And in that time, someone ran up and tagged both of us with a noodle. I don't even know where that guy came from. I was not at attention. I was just standing there. And so I was like, oh, I could have disputed it a little bit. Hey, he was trying to clarify a rule, but I wanted to play zombie as well. So I just said, okay, I guess I'm starting early. That was within the first hour. I barely played human. I got like a couple tags, and that was it. I also did break a promise at the very beginning of the day. I told Buff Daddy Nerf that I would use a Rev Reaper and join him in Rev Reapery goodness. And I then traded my Mark 1.2 that I won from the tournament the day prior with Jeff Blue for this Crimson Recon, and I used this instead, and you know, things just happen sometimes, and I did get at least one tag with this, which was good. This is stock, by the way, so this is not very powerful. Good for hunting zombies? Maybe. The starting conditions too. It's cool to see the HvZ experience with, like, you know, different starting conditions and different, you know, like game restrictions, because a lot of the invitationals will typically have none of that, just so you can make sure people traveling out of town can play with whatever they have. And in general, I think it's hard to force people to only use certain things or in time, but for HvZ enthusiasts in the campus that always do this, part of the game is you gotta unlock your high capacity magazines. You have to unlock electric blasters and a lower FPS cap. I appreciated it. I like having games that are not super high, you know, 150. I think HvZ definitely makes sense at a lower cap. It keeps everyone safer, especially because not everyone's wearing eye protection. Let's roll into some of the constructive feedback. I wish everyone was wearing eye protection. It just makes me feel safer. I never was at risk of hitting someone in the eye with a high-powered blaster in the first place, but, you know, I was always wearing eye protection. Maybe when I walked away and was, like, you know, respawning, I took it off just so I could defog it because it was getting humid. But seeing some people just charge in without eye protection, knowing that, you know, there's still a lot of blasters flinging a lot of darts, close to 120 FPS, that can still do some serious damage to your eyes if you get hit. So if it's not already enforced, I really wish it was. And if it should be a rule that's enforced, what am I saying? Eye protection should be mandatory, that's what I'm saying. While I don't recall any specific injuries related to getting hit in the eye, I do recall quite a few times that we did have to take a game pause. We did supposedly call it a pause and not a hold, because everyone always yells hold and then it gets confusing. People were still yelling hold, even though pause was supposed to be the right one. Come on, guys, it's not that hard to remember that one. It's important. But there were many instances where we did have to take a game pause, you take a knee, and sometimes it was simple as just like making sure we avoided a situation or someone slipped and we're making sure they're okay. I have to, of course, mention the very end, right before the final stand, there was that incident in a corner, which should have been avoided because the mod should have known that all the zombies rushing into like 5-6 people into that, like, you know, dead-end brick wall was going to be a problem that had a little slot and then a drop onto that grate. Someone got hurt. I don't know how bad it was, but it was obviously very serious. And I understand that some of this came down to this was the largest invitational they've held, so naturally problems are just going to scale with more and more people. I noted that it was also new student orientation weekend. I heard from some people that there's just always some big event on the UMBC campus, so maybe they just literally can't avoid these kinds of things. But it was just very interesting to be walking around and then see big group of humans. Oh, orientation. Non-players, avoid the non-players, because, yeah, we also have to avoid the non-players like the plague, otherwise we risk the whole event being shut down in the future. So you can't interact with non-players, but they were everywhere. So I don't know if they can actually find weekends that easily that just don't have as many people walking around. It's a college campus, though. There were definitely some areas that worked better for actual humans versus zombies interactions, so there were plenty of instances where that wasn't an issue, but it seemed like every other time that we walked up and down the stairs and through the hallways, yeah, we were bound to at least see a couple people, and some zombies, some humans handled that better. Some people were just kind of weaving through them. It's like, no, go around them, wait for them to stop. But overall, the moderators and other players were usually pretty clear about, hey, you need to pay attention. So, good on you guys. And another big one for us out-of-towners is that we saw a lot of darts and ammo by the end. I came back to my stuff, and I was informed to do a little bit of dart sweeping, so I started helping out. And then I realized we had not swept most areas around the campus. So we spent a good amount of time, you know, an hour or so, picking up darts from various spots, and we definitely missed some because as we were walking back to our cars, we saw more ammo on the ground and we stopped and kept picking it up because we're cursed with this. And the HvZ staff said They would be going back later in that evening. Actually, at that point it was 7, so the day after, day was done, and pick some more stuff up, and they pick stuff up throughout the weeks. But, like, as people who had just kind of concluded the event, we were like, we want to make sure we can get all of this off the ground as quickly as possible, for rain purposes, but just for general, like, people walking around purposes. Because the more ammo you see on the ground, the more people will think, well, these people don't care. They're just littering. Maybe we should reevaluate our, relationship with the club. And we don't want to be the result of that. We don't want to be the people who travel out of state to this, make a mess, and then they suffer the consequences. So, again, I was told that they would handle it more, but we felt like some of the other folks who left early could have done more as well. And, you could look at it from the perspective of, I fired X amount of darts, so I'll pick up that many darts. But, like, just come on, pick up more. Help out everyone. I fired maybe 10 darts, right? Did I need to pick up only 10 pieces of ammo? No, that's not how that works. Everyone can help. It makes a lot less work with many, many hands. And we had 350 plus people. We could have made dart sweeps a lot faster. So, in the future, I think the HvZ group, you should rally those people. You should force those people to help with dart sweeps. That's our feedback. And maybe other things will come up too, but overall, I can't help but smile. This was so fun, and I'm so glad to have been talking to more people around that they also had a really, really good time. Despite the rain, despite the muddy conditions after it, sitting under the canopies and listening to the other humans who were still alive and what they were all doing was really, really fun. And it was fun to rush in and try and tag people. I would love to come back to this. This was a really special treat. So thank you to the organizers, to the players. You made this a really cool experience. Oh, my throat. Oh, too much yelling. Shield wall, shield wall, shield wall, shield wall, shield wall. Oh, the sharks were great too. I got to throw the shark a couple of times to try and tag people out, like stun them. It was unsuccessful, but shark.